Our next guest has launched a truth campaign against the New York Times. Watch this.
We the people have had it. We've had it with your narratives, your propaganda, your fake news. We've had it with your constant protection of your Democrat overlords, your refusal to acknowledge any truth that upsets the fragile construct that you believe is real life. And we've had it with your pretentious, tone-deaf assertion that you are, in any way, truth or fact-based journalism.
Oh, I can get behind that one, all right. Dana Loesch, the lady who put this out, is with us now, nationally syndicated radio host and NRA spokesperson. I tell you right from the get-go, Dana, I'm tired of the New York Times trying to define my culture, America's culture. I'm tired of it. You too, I guess.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Stuart, and thank you so much for having me. And I don't think that we are the only ones who are tired of the New York Times trying to determine the narrative every single day. In fact, there was a media correspondent that just right after the election, Michael Sipley, who had remarked that the New York Times believes that in its Manhattan boardroom, it gets to set the agenda for America every time that all of the editors get together. They are that unbelievably arrogant. And he spoke to the unbelievable bias that the New York Times demonstrates every single day. Now, I have covered media for a good part of 9 years now, I think at this point, right when our former president got into the White House. The New York Times has been a stain on journalism for quite some time. It actually degrades the practice of journalism with the practice of bias and the practice of partisanship, because they only want to print what it fits with their agenda. And they've done this with almost every major issue. They've done this, obviously, with firearms when they try to go after law-abiding Americans. For instance, in Chicago, they vastly underreport how federal prosecutions for criminal use of firearms have dropped dramatically in the city of Chicago, yet the crime rate still increases. And just considering the situation with Benghazi, Stuart, just last year, they were still blaming the 9/11 terror attack in Benghazi on a video. I guess Hillary Clinton forgot to send them her latest talking point.
Now, good sarcasm there, Dana. Now, President Trump's first 100 days are up on April 29th. I mean, it's not that far away. I presume that the New York Times will consider it a failure, the first 100 days a failure. What says Dana Loesch?
Oh, I'm sure they will. I mean, they've already said first 100 days of horror or something to that effect. Completely unrealistic. They just dislike the Trump administration because they're progressives, and the Trump administration is not. In fact, and Stuart, I'll say this, during the primary elections for the Republican Party, I was quite critical of a lot of the primary candidates, particularly President Trump at the time. And I have to say that I am incredibly pleased and encouraged to see the actions of this administration in these first 100 days. There have been a number of steps that the administration has taken that I think is encouraging to all Americans. We see the stock market reacting to the promise on budget reform, as well as the president's discussion of tax cuts. We also see the president has signed in a repeal of this regulation from the Obama era, which removed due process from Social Security beneficiaries and stripped them of a natural right based on what a bureaucratic thought, if they suspected that they were crazy or not. They also, this administration is also determined to allow states to decide how they want to allocate and handle funding for where it concerns Planned Parenthood. Of course, we have Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch, and I think foreign policy has changed quite a bit from the previous 8 years.
Dana.
Americans approve. Yes, 180 completely, Stuart.
Okay, now you're an NRA spokesperson, and President Trump is going to speak at the NRA convention. I think it's the first time we've seen a sitting president, speak at the NRA convention, I think since Reagan's days, 1983. How did he pull that off?
Right. You are correct. Well, because the Trump administration has been a supporter of gun rights. The Trump administration has been a supporter of the natural right to practice and exercise your Second Amendment. And, of course, that completely goes in with the NRA community and the people who just simply... And, by the way, the NRA is incredibly big tent, and I don't think that they get enough credit for how big tent they are, because there are Democrats, Stuart, who are NRA members. My family is 99% Democrat. I'm one of the only conservatives in my family, and my family are all NRA members. And so this is a huge big tent. And these people, these blue-collar workers, these people who simply want to be able to have the pro-choice equal right of self-defense, they support the Trump administration, and they like what the administration is doing, particularly on gun rights. Stuart, for some people, that was people like Justice Gorsuch and the issue of national reciprocity. Those were the two issues that why they voted for Trump. And so it makes sense that he's going to speak at the forum.
Yep, got it. Dana Loesch, as always, you can come again anytime you like. See you again soon.